me as the leader, I've got to identify what are the areas that are going to make the biggest differences, and how do I keep people focused on that? Then also, how do I line them up with what's in it for them, the company, and all of our futures? Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Overlap Podcast, where we dive into the intersections of work, fitness, family, faith, parenting, and leadership. And here we believe that growth in one area of your life fuels growth in all areas of your life. And that's why we're committed to taking the lessons we've learned from business, breaking them down into simple, actionable insights, and empowering small business leaders and, everyone else to thrive. That's really our mission here. So we appreciate you guys listening, and thanks for tuning in today or tonight or whatever the time is whenever you are listening. And here we go. How you been, Keith?
Very good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing great. Been super busy lately. I know you have too. So before I get into me, what have you been up to?
Oh man, we've been doing a lot with family, and Hatch had a big event last night. With,
let's start with family. Hold on. Let's go back to family. What are you doing there?
Parents.
Oh, yeah. So you've had a lot going on there.
Yeah, I had a lot going on with parents. And I was telling someone just last week, I was like, and you've been through this as well. Parents aging is a hard thing.
Yeah, man.
And then
I sort of always remember my dad at like 45 to 50. And it didn't stay that way.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's part of life, isn't it?
It is. It is.
So
you've been able to be there for
been
him.
able to be there. We traveled a bit.
Yeah.
And so that was cool, getting to get out and ski. And then last week got back at it.
Yeah. So you were saying before I cut you off that Hatch had a big event. Tell me about that.
We did a biotech event, which sounds way smart for me to be involved.
It does.
I was sitting in a room last night with scientists and doctors and academia thinking, why am I here?
Yeah.
But really great event, bringing the biotech and marine sciences and ag sciences and all of those folks together. Under one roof was kind of cool. We led a panel and trying to see how we facilitate a program that benefits them. So that's kind of cool. So
benefits the scientists.
Does, yeah.
Okay.
Or involves them in creating technology out of Baldwin County. So, that's a pretty cool thing too.
Cool.
And then about to launch a book with the publishing company, and so all that good stuff.
Man, spring has sprung.
Spring has sprung.
Yeah.
And
gotcha.
So just been, and I hate the term busy.
Yeah.
Because busy a lot of times means not effective.
Okay.
And so that's what I'm trying to get better at is this effective busy, or is it just being busy?
Okay.
Because I think we've talked about this before.
We have.
Really easy to just be busy.
Mm-hmm. And not productive.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
How about you?
So, we had some time off. Keith and I went with 3 other guys that were in a peer group of mine for over 17 years. We went skiing and caught up with them. Keith got to kind of meet those guys that really I grew up with in business and learned a lot from. And we did some skiing. The weather was okay. Snow was just okay, but the company was pretty great. And we got to spend some time there. And then Saturday, everyone left, and I picked up wife and kids on after spending about 3 hours at a Gold's Gym in Montrose, Colorado. It was a strange experience.
I love the pictures from the Gold's Gym.
I was there just going, what is going on?
Did you flex in the mirror?
I did not. And I didn't grunt or anything.
You didn't?
Because I don't know that that's allowed. Maybe that's only Planet Fitness, but it was just a different experience. I don't know that I've ever been to one of those kind of gyms.
You know what really it didn't take me by surprise, but this is kind of a plug for a peer group. But seeing you guys and how your businesses have grown over the years and how the relationship has formed between all of you was really great to see. And it's a plug for just being in community.
Being in community is for sure.
Right.
And within that community, there's, cliques is probably one word for it, but just cohorts is probably a better word, where we were all about the same age and all of our businesses were about the same age. And so we really just kind of grew up together. And that guy, Clint, who's been on the podcast, Clint Allison, him and I started the same year. And those other two guys started just 2 years before us. So it was great. And we really did spend a lot of time together, seeing each other's businesses quite a few times, and talked to each other a lot over the last 20 years.
The topic that we're talking about today, actually, y'all talked about quite a bit, is how to incentivize.
Yeah.
How do you incentivize team members?
Right.
And what is fair and what's not, and what's expected and what's mandatory and what's extra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about a peer group or a community in general is that you really don't have to go at it alone. You've got someone that you can, especially once you've developed some good relationships over the period of years, you got some people that you can talk to that know your business, know your people, know your tendencies, strengths, and weaknesses, and they can give you some real good advice. And it takes time to get that.
And I really enjoyed it also because it was an immense amount of knowledge about bourbon.
Those guys really know a lot. They're really into it.
We had a good time testing that out.
Yeah, they did not like Keith's mezcal because I didn't know this, but mezcal is smoky.
Not all mezcal, but the mezcal that I like is. I like a peaty. Like if I'm going to drink a scotch, I like a peaty scotch. I
don't even know what peaty means.
I mean, burnt or smoky.
The barrels are burnt.
The smoky flavor
on the inside. The barrel is burnt.
Well, in mezcal, in the difference between mezcal and tequila is tequila, the agave is steamed.
Mm-hmm.
In mezcal, the agave is roasted under the ground.
Oh,
and so they build a fire under the ground. Put the agave in, and then extract that.
How do they get the alcohol out of it, or the liquid, the sugars?
I'm not real sure about that, but I just know that's the different. Yeah. So,
Well, there was all kinds of talk like that in our little meetup, and
and I think that's important too about a peer group. It's like not only do you only talk about business and what your business is doing, but you like delve in personal too.
Yeah, we know each other's kids, man.
Yeah,
our kids know each other.
Yeah. That's super cool.
My kids love Clint. They hated they missed him.
Well, who wouldn't love Clint?
I know.
He's freaking hilarious.
He is hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, the dude wore blue jeans under his ski pants, so he could just.
And just wore his Tennessee hat.
That's right, and skiing. No goggles.
Oh no, he wore a Floribama hat.
Not a goggle.
Not a goggle.
Yeah, just his Costa Del Mars.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. So, like Keith said, we're talking today about really why, then when, and how to implement an incentive program. This is an area or a topic that I think most people think they know the answer to. It's almost like communication. Everyone goes, oh, yeah, incentive. Yeah, just incentivize them. And it sounds smart and it sounds like the right thing to do, but is it? And when is very important in my opinion. And then, why and how, those questions are just so much more important than people just realize. And I think most people have a flippant kind of attitude towards developing an incentive program until you actually sit down and try to come up with one.
Yeah.
So,
let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Because I think we need to clarify this before we move into incentive plans, what they do and how they do it and all that stuff. When in your company did you decide, and it can be like a team member number, or that you needed to incorporate incentives?
Okay. When we were talking about that peer group, after I had gotten in for a couple of years, I had started to iron out some processes, and then some ways. This is the way we do things. For the first couple of years, it was just me doing it, and sort of, coming out of school, you've got an idea of how you're going to do things. And I had some other experiences, like, being in the Coast Guard, and I had some ideas about that. And I'd worked for other landscape companies, and I had some ideas about that. And, anyone that's ever started a business thinks they're going to do it their way, and maybe use some of the things that but I was still experimenting, and I didn't really have certainly didn't have any written processes, but really didn't even have like some standard processes. So after a couple of years, we started developing some pretty standard processes. This is how we do things. For instance, we were really focused for a couple of years and dialed it in that, man hours on each job. And so that was the first incentive program I ever came up with, was like, hey, we sell a job, you're on that job. If we meet these hours, if we hit, if it's a 100-hour job and we get it done in 100 hours, I'll give you something like $1 for each one of the hours. And if we go under, great. But if we go over, we don't get anything, and so why? Let's start with why. Why would you do that? Why do we want an incentive plan? I think that's a good question. And for me, and I want the listener to hear me out on this. If you're a business leader, if you're an owner, you're the CEO, you're whatever, president, you're just the startup founder, doesn't matter. If you're inviting people to come on the team, what you have to do, my goal is I've got to go out front and see what is possible, and then have an idea of what margin can be created, and then use that margin to share it with the people that are going to help me get there. Does that make sense?
It does.
So that's a broad statement to just say, I know at that point in time when you ask me, I know that if I can hit the hours on every one of these, then we're going to create way more margin, more money. We're going to make this amount of money. And every time we go over, we lose some of that margin. So if I can incentivize, and like I said, I had a couple of years of trying it out, and I could see we were missing the mark about 25% of the time. I'll say at least half of that. So 12.5% was my estimating process. But the other part was I left the job unattended to go, do another estimate or do some invoicing or see a customer about something else, whatever, right? And you'd be gone half the day or the day, and just work didn't get done, even if you had a right-hand guy or girl or whatever. And so back to the leadership part, what I have to remind myself all the time still, is that I can get people fired up about things, the team and all of that stuff. But ultimately, to get them fired up and have it be sustainable, they need to understand what's in it for them. So an incentive program really starts to put that talk, or that my money where my mouth is. And so I was like, hey, we got to hit these hours. We got to hit these hours. Oh, by the way, I've created this plan, and if we hit these hours, you get $1 for every one of the hours that's on the job. And it was just pretty simple math, and it worked. And what it did was it got everyone rowing in the same direction. Got everyone focused on, this is the most important thing. Well, at that time. It got everyone focused on production. It got everyone focused on, managing their time. It got everyone focused on, hey, we want to go ahead and spend an extra hour or 2 hours to get that job done. We might work a little late until 6 o'clock, so we don't have to spend the extra hours of cleaning up the job site, loading up, driving back to the shop, doing whatever you got to do there, clocking out, coming in the next morning, clocking in, loading up in the truck, driving to the job site, finishing that up, and then finally getting off the job. Now you're 5 hours over and you lose. So why is at the basic foundational level is to get everyone focused on what's most important. And leadership is really getting everyone focused on the differences that make the difference. That's what leadership is. You got to have, that's why we say numbers are the language of business. And if you're going to run a business, own a business, or anything else, you need to know what that is so you can understand all the things, right? You don't have to understand them all, but you need to understand it well enough to know these are the most important things. Now I can focus these guys on this. And that's going to be different for each department.
Clear, achievable goals.
Clear, achievable goals.
And that helps you formulate that. Incentives would be formulation of that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
It does,
that was very long-winded. I'm sorry.
Because a lot of people say the incentive is they get to work here. But I think
that's at a very low level. Yeah.
But I think to create, excitement around them coming to work.
Yeah.
And giving your team members a sense of ownership, you've got to bring them in the process.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I have failed to bring the team members into the process and say, this is where we're going. I just say, go do that.
Right.
Here's the task, go do it. But giving them some ownership, I think, is important.
100%. And the way I like to think about it is I think most people listening to the podcast, and most people I ever talk to about this have had some experience with team sports. And the leader, the CEO, the president, the manager, whatever, is you got to think of yourself as the head coach. And if I just bark at my players to, block right, without explaining the why and then incentivizing the good behavior, it's not very sustainable for them to do what I need them to do over a period of time. It's sort of like your kids, right? There's some overlaps there. If all I do is complain to them about not making the bed, they're never going to want to do it. Not that they're ever going to want to, right? But there will be that will sort of diminish a little bit if you kind of explain the why. You go ahead and you put your arm around them, you help them, and you build a little bit of a relationship with them. That's way more sustainable than just barking at them. And so I think that incentive plan or incentives in general are just a tool for me to bridge the gap and build a relationship, and then also put my money where my mouth is and show them what's in it for them. Is there an acronym like WIFM or something? What's in it for me? There's something like that. Josh Duplantis says that all the time.
Well, that may be text lingo because my kids will send me like letters on a text, and I don't know what that means a lot. Dude. I'm like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
But so there was a study Harvard Business Review did, and they found, and this is like in highlights, well-designed incentive plans increase employee motivation and productivity by 20 to 30%.
Yeah.
But well-designed is the key there.
Yeah. Well-designed is the key. And we're going to get into that a lot today. I'll also say right as we're getting started, it's not always money, sometimes it's just recognition.
Well, I think I saw a study that Gen Z is more like pat on the back based.
Yeah.
If you can give a Gen Zer a pat on the back, it's even greater than monetary.
Yeah, their love language is words of affirmation.
Yeah, they got to feel like they're making a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think a good incentive program is holistic and sort of covers a lot of that.
This surprised me also when I saw this stat. Gallup did a poll in 2023, and 23% of employees feel engaged at work.
Oof.
That's scary.
Well, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. If you're competing in the market, that's a good thing.
Right.
Because you can be that, you could be that 26%. You could serve that. You could be that person that's serving those people. And then the talent from the other places that are not serving them will eventually make their way to your shop. Every obstacle's an opportunity.
Right.
So when to implement an incentive program, and I alluded to that with my first example, is when you've got some systems in place, like this is how we're going to do it. And you've done the math on making sure that one, you're not giving away the farm, but two, that it's enough of a difference to make the difference. If you give everyone $1 in 1935, maybe that works, but in 2025, $1 is not doing it. $100 is okay, but if it's once a month, $100 a month isn't a big enough hit. And maybe you're not at that point where you can do $1,000 a month. Hell, I don't know that I am either, but especially with all the people. But the key people, if you can get it to $100 a week or something like that, and still only give out about 10% of that margin, then you're winning. So when you implement a system it is as important as why. The system is very important, but here's the one key piece that most people don't consider. Who is going to manage that process? Because if you're going to implement an incentive program and you're the person that has to sort of, collect the data, crunch the data, come up with the end game consistently at the end of each month or the 15th and the 30th, whatever the system is, if you're that person and you don't have the capacity to do so, then you're going to drop the ball. And let me tell you what you never want to do. You want to lose some trust real quick, start messing up on an incentive program.
Oh, definitely so.
People will just say you're a big fat liar because they think that anyways.
Or don't come through with what's promised.
Because you didn't do the math right. And hey, or you didn't explain it right. Like, hey, we don't pay this out until we get paid from the customer. Well, that's not fair. I'm like, I don't know why that would be unfair. I don't have the money until those people pay us. So you got to come up with a system. You've got to be at a certain scale that you probably have some help coming, to like, maybe you got a bookkeeper, maybe you got an office manager, maybe you've got someone that can help, or maybe not. Maybe you're the person that's implementing it and you're not, 100% in sales or something that's going to drag you away from it and keep your eye off the ball. If you can do it, that's great. My hat's off to you. But most of the time I have needed to delegate that to someone that's going to consistently do it. That's when it really works.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about my friend Wes Cody. He's the president of C2 Wealth Strategies, a financial advisory firm dedicated to providing personalized solutions for your financial needs. Wes and his team of professionals are passionate about helping clients create wealth and achieve financial freedom. At C2 Wealth Strategies, they believe in taking a holistic approach to financial planning and are committed to building long-lasting relationships with their clients, ensuring their financial well-being every step of the way. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Contact Wes and C2 Wealth today at c2wealth.com to schedule a consultation. Let Wes and his team help you build your financial future.
If you're a small business owner looking to take your business to the next level, listen up. My good friend Chris Francis has spent over 20 years growing his tree care business to national success. Now he's partnered with Rick Miller, you've probably heard him here on the podcast before, Harvard MBA, and business consultant to create Roadmap for Growth, an online course to help you scale, build teams, and create systems that last. It's not just for the tree industry. This course applies to any small service business. Check out treebusiness.com or hit the link on the Overlap homepage to learn more.
Do you find that individual incentives work or team-based?
I like a little bit of both. We have an entire team-based incentive program. We call it a self-funded incentive plan. And we have a certain dollar amount in our budget every year. And it's pretty large. And if we hit the quarterly goal for the first quarter, we pay out 10% of that budgeted amount. And it goes to everyone on the team, from the guy on the front lines swinging a weed eater to the guy managing director of operations. And they're all going to get the exact same amount. In the first quarter, it's a low amount, but we haven't collected a bunch of money yet. So it's 10% of what, let's say it's $100,000. So there's $10,000 to share between, let's say, 40 people. And you've got to qualify for it. So you have to be there past your first 90 days. This is just an idea of an incentive plan. So you have to be there for the first, you've had to have worked your full 90 days past your probationary period and worked that whole quarter as a full-fledged, team member. You can give some people some exemptions on that. I don't do it very often, but there might be a guy we hire in as an account manager, and he's got a lot of experience, and we're just getting them on there. But usually there's not any exemptions. So they've worked that full quarter. There you go. And it limits your number. Those people that turn over, they just never get in that pool. You can miss that first quarter. Let's say you've got to have a 10% net profit, because we've done the math. We're typically at 8%. If we can get another 2%, 2% on the net profit of there, pays everybody. It pays for it all. And then some, right? And then some is the most important part. Like, you can't give away the whole farm, because if you're owning, you're carrying the risk, and you don't know what's coming around the corner the next month. So you got to keep socking away. Then the second quarter, you hit that target. Let's say it's 10%, whatever. At that quarter, and you didn't hit it in the first quarter, you'll pay out 30% at that point, because it's 10 plus 20. Or you hit the first quarter, you only hit and then you pay out the second quarter. That's 20% of that 100,000, right? Third quarter would be 30%. Fourth quarter would be 40%. You add it all up, that's 100%. It's crazy, right? But let's say you miss first, second, third quarter, you can still keep people engaged. And as a coach, I can still say, look, guys, we can still win this. It's my job to do the plan. How are we going to win this? But we can still win this with a Hail Mary at the end of the fourth quarter. We can get 100% payout on this thing with all of you that have stuck around the whole year. And you can get some people fired up about that. But you can also keep them fired up hitting the quarters one after another. And it's at a frequency. And it's generally, since it's economical and equitable, if you will, everyone's got the same amount, people can get behind it. But those folks that are driving each department, you can come up with a different program for them. Maybe it's every quarter, maybe it's every month, maybe it's twice a year. It kind of depends on your cycle, and every business has a cycle. Quarters work pretty well for us, but maybe they don't work for some other places. We've got some highs and lows too. And you just got to give it some thought. But back to that question, when is when you've got some good systems in place, you've got some track records, you know what success looks like, and you probably have someone to help you implement or keep track of this. Keeping track of it is so hard.
I think a good place to start, though, and I've done this, is a non-cash incentive.
Okay, yeah, I love it.
And so, like travel, or give them a night at a hotel, or get them a Chick-fil-A card. Mm-hmm. If you do well on a project and can afford it, start the incentives there.
Yeah.
And then you'll see, because I used to do gift cards a lot. And I saw they would look forward to it. Man,
so you're hitting on one of the things where I was going to actually circle back around and say, not everything has to be some well thought out plan if all you're trying to do is catch people doing something right.
Right.
That's a different deal. And maybe you can call it an incentive plan, but all you're really doing is you might have $200 of $20 Chick-fil-A gift cards, and all you're doing is passing those out. When you see Jimmy did a great job with this customer, and the customer called in and said, man, I just wanted to let you know Jimmy's great. You go, I really appreciate that. You know what I'm going to do? We're going to tip him for you. We've got $20 gift cards that we give out, and we'll make sure we give him one of those. And thank you so much for giving us a call and giving us that feedback. You know what you've done? You've made that customer know that their feedback is appreciated. You let that customer know that you appreciate the team member, and you've got a little thing that you're going to do for them, and they feel good about it. And then you go give Jimmy the gift card. You say, man, Miss Morgan said that you did a fantastic job. I just want to say thanks. Take this, do whatever you want. $20 cash is pretty good. But whatever you want to do. But the idea behind that is that it's not systemic or system based. It's more of when I see it, I say it. Does that make sense? And I think it keeps people from getting entitled, and it makes it seem a little more genuine. And if you spread it around and you're really thoughtful about it, you're going to keep people, focused on doing a good job, and you're probably building a lot of bridges and building a lot of relationships that way. It's infrequent. It's nice. It doesn't have to be full systemic. I love it.
It's really hard early on to have an incentive plan that is dedicated. That we're going to do this every time.
And if you just took out $100 and you had it in in your console of your truck or something, and it's all in tens or something, and you give someone a $10 bill, you just go, hey, I just want to let you know you're doing a great job this week. I appreciate it. Man, that goes such a long way. And $10 is almost nothing to them, but they appreciate just the thought. The good people, the right people appreciate the thought. And if they don't, maybe they're not the right person on the team.
I just gave Tim a Yeti cup.
Did you?
Yeah.
I got one too.
Oh, sweet.
I love the small Yetis.
Yeah, it's the perfect size. Bourbon goes in there.
Did Stephanie tell you that?
Yeah, she likes.
Even Tim's laughing at that one.
Yeah,
these are micro Yetis.
Yeah, they are. We're on a budget.
We're on a budget, yeah. Yeah, it's genetic.
No, everybody gives the big Yeti out. Yeah. The 10 ounce don't happen. And so I gave those.
Yeah, they're pretty great, actually. I do like them. Yeah. I was going to say coffee is probably the appropriate drink for there, Tim.
Tim's really into the wine.
He is
now.
The wine and
but I mean
and like the club soda and gin or something.
Don't worry, Tim. I have gone directly from coffee to bourbon in the same cup. It's not a bad problem at all.
Tim, I also learned in our trip that using the same ice cube for the second glass of bourbon is a very good call. I don't know.
Yeah, dirty ice.
Dirty ice. That's what they were all saying. Yeah. Where were we?
we were talking about that incentive plans doesn't have to be set. That we could start out with. You can totally start out with
catching people doing something right.
Catching people doing something right.
Man, that's such a lost leadership art of just saying thank you. I've noticed. Hey, you've done a really good job. I wanted you to know it hasn't gone unnoticed. Here's $20. Whatever. I really appreciate it. I know it's not a lot, but it's just a little bit of a gratitude, a little bit of a token of my gratitude. And I wanted you to know that I appreciate you. What? I mean, that goes so far.
The IRF, I don't know what that is, but
return on.
No, the IRF is
I thought it was RIF. Sorry. I'm dyslexic.
The Incentive Research Foundation found that non-cash incentive programs, if you start it, can increase employee engagement by 31%. So, and that's the problem. I mean, or that's the whole goal, I think, with your team members is to keep them engaged in the process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And really, I think you've got to constantly break down the wall of the idea that society puts out there, modern culture puts out there, that it's the worker versus management. You know?
Right.
And it's not their fault that they think that way. That's just what the deal is, you know? But if you can keep breaking that thing down by bridging gaps and having incentives and catching people doing something right and genuinely caring, then that starts to melt away. And people, you build up a lot of leadership capital and you can get a lot of stuff done.
And I also think just some kind of notice that you care.
Yeah.
Helps retention a ton. Like just
a ton.
Someone understanding, hey, this guy cares about me.
Yeah. 100%.
This company cares about me.
100%.
And it doesn't take much.
And that goes even if it's someone that needs to leave or is going to leave your organization. If you treat them with respect and you don't take it all personal, this person's leaving, and you treat them with respect and think about it that like, hey, this person did a great job while they were here. When they started, we were here. And now that they're leaving, we're here. When he started, we were there. When he's leaving, we are here. And this person was a big part of that. And man, it's funny. Just treating people right is the right thing to do in a number of different ways, but it should also lead back to you having a good reputation as an employer. And that's kind of what we're all trying to do. Here's my take on being an employer, especially in the service industry, or no matter what your business is in, whatever industry that is. There's only a finite number of people out there to do the job. And so to a certain degree, we're all, SEC football coaches, and we're all recruiting out of the same talent pool.
I'll be Nick Saban.
You would win. You would win. Thanks. Because that guy's the GOAT, dude. He's one of the most impressive humans ever. But back to this, we're all SEC football coaches, and whoever recruits the best talent, for the most part, wins. Now, you've got to be able to develop that talent and get them all singing out of the same songbook and rowing in the same direction. But getting the right horses on the team or butts on the bus is the first step. And then getting them all to buy into the process is the second step. Getting them all to execute when it counts is the third. So, you got to think of it that way and just start at first principles. And first principles is I need talent. And so how am I going to do that? Well, it's everything. It's everything. Does your place look good? Do you, do you have decent equipment? Are you treating people right? Do you have a well-written ad? All that stuff. In the interview process, are you asking good questions? Or are you being a jerk about it? Like, oh, you're going to have to earn it to work here, that kind of stuff. And it's just an attitude. And then onboarding. Do you have a way that you're actually helping them onboard so they feel like you've given it some thought, you've actually thought about the first time you took a new job and thought, ooh, it's pretty nerve-wracking. You got some anxiety going on there. Do you ease that? Do you get them engaged early? Do you set them up with a mentor, someone to walk them through the process? Do you spend enough time with them in the first, 90 days? You as the president, are you checking in on them every couple of weeks and making sure everything's going okay? All of those things leaks out into the rest of the talent pool and those are as Chris Bell would put it, those are boomerangs you're putting out, and they're eventually going to come back to you. Then, if you've got a good incentive program, it keeps everyone engaged, and it makes the leadership words you're putting out there not ring so hollow, and they actually let them know that something's in it for them, not just, they think it's lining our pockets. I literally think before we started discussing our P&L and all of our other financial data with our entire team, they probably thought I was just taking wheelbarrow loads of cash home, which is absolutely not the truth. So gives you an opportunity to explain all of that too. And you really attract, hire, and retain the best team members if you got a holistic approach.
I think incentive plan. I worked for a company one time in the corporate space where
I bet that was complicated.
Where I was like salary plus, but I never knew what the plus was.
Yeah,
like I never knew how to get to the plus.
Yeah, it's crazy how
and
they
so
make it all complicated.
It wasn't clear at all.
Yeah,
and so it was very demotivating for me to ever try, because I was like, 1 month I'd hit it, the next month I didn't, and I had the same sales. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like what breaks up. So I think you have to be very clear on what the incentive plan is.
Yeah.
What is the incentive? And I think you have to make it available for everyone to know.
Yeah. A ninth grader should be able to understand your incentive program.
Yeah. If I do this and excel at this, this happens.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
It's like any other leadership thing, any directive. You got to keep it simple. And the more simple it is, the better it is.
Another thing I would do when I started my company is I would speak in what ifs. If we do this, then I'm going to do this.
Oh,
and I think that's demotivating too when you start out early with your team members.
Okay.
Is speaking in the what. If we do well this month, I'm going to make sure you get it.
Oh, so you weren't really defined. It was fuzzy what well
so I think
was?
You got to define what well is.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, implementing an incentive program is definitely going to make you get crystal clear with your language and the outcome you're shooting for.
Definitely so.
If you've got a real salesperson, like a real one, they may not ask for clarity on that incentive program and what the defined outcome is, but they're shooting for what they think it is. And if you guys are not aligned, you are going to get it, son. They are going to be real aggressive about how you lied to them, Right.
And if you're a team member listening to this episode, do not hesitate to ask for clarity.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I would do as a leader is say, if I'm going to do this when we hit this. Well, I had a team member one time say, what does that mean? And it helped me clarify what I was promising.
Yeah. I'll also say, if you're a team member, you're a business leader of a department or just anything, and you got someone trying to implement an incentive program and it's messy and it's not going okay, let's have a little bit of grace, because they're at least trying to do something. These things are tough, and everything sounds like a good idea, even on paper, until it starts to get executed and you didn't think about what you didn't think about. All of my biggest mistakes started out as fantastic ideas. I never had a bad idea. They just turned out to be wrong, So have a little bit of grace, because at least people are trying. And I'm saying that to you, the listener, to give yourself a little bit of grace and maybe be a little bit more brave and at least trying something. And if you set your people up to say, hey, I don't know that I've got this fully 100% dialed in, but I'd like to try something because I want to make sure that we're rowing in the right direction. And I want to make sure that I'm putting my money where my mouth is, that this is the difference that's going to make the difference. And if we do these things, here's what I think I can do. Let's try this for a little while and see if it works. That's a real good approach to starting an incentive program.
Yeah, I think you have to look at the sustainability of it.
Yeah.
Can you sustain it? Can this be sustained? And a try. I don't think there's anything in the world wrong with a try. Hey,
Yeah.
But be very clear about it. Say, let's try this.
Well, hell, when you hire people, you put them on a 90-day probationary period.
Right.
I mean, at least we do. I think that's still standard practice. I haven't worked anywhere in a long time.
I think it is, yeah.
And so even then, we're just going, hey, we're just giving this a shot. You know, if it doesn't work out, doesn't make you a bad person, just makes you a bad fit. And so trying that out is good. But I think we're segueing into how to implement a system. In a broad scope, it needs to be win-win. It can't be all one-sided for the business owner or management, and it can't be all one-sided to the team member. So it needs to be balanced in that way. It needs to be balanced in a way that it can't be manipulated either. Let's do this. Let's say that let's say you got a salesperson, right? And you say, look, I'm going to give you 10% of every sale you make. Well, let me tell you what you're going to have if you've got a real assassin out there, a real sales badger. They're going to sell everything and they won't give a crap if it's good work, bad work, in your area, not in your area, nothing. Not because they're bad people, but they're just wired that way. They see a goal, they're just going after it. So they'll sell $2 million worth of shit you don't need, you know, and you are on the hook to pay them, whatever. Is that $20,000? 10?
No, $2 million.
$2 million?
That's $200,000.
$200,000. Yeah. That's a tough mistake. If it's a bunch of, I'd never do 10%, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah. Unless they're all commission. But
yeah, we like easy math on this podcast.
Yeah.
10% is a good one.
But either way, so it needs to be balanced where it can't be manipulated. So it's just clarifying your language. We'll pay 10% on everything that's sold that is in our service area that meets our whatever it is. So we used to do hours, but hours can get funky on that thing. But just meet our gross profit margin. So it's work that gets done. Now, you're going to get, it's not my fault they didn't do that. And I was like, well, it's not my fault either. It's not my fault that either. You know, you sold it. Was the job bid right? Oh, I promise it was bid right. Okay, well, why didn't get, that kind of stuff. You're still going to have to deal with that, but you can work through it. But at least it's balanced, and at least, and you gotta, this is just a piece of advice. You need to pay the commission when you get paid. And they go, well, I don't want to wait for it. Well, what do you want me to do? You want me to come out of my pocket? I'm happy to do that, but I thought we were a team here. And so sometimes you got to push back, with aggressive salespeople. And aggressive salespeople, do not put them down. They're just wired that way, and you need some badgers.
Definitely.
At least one.
Yes. You need them.
You need them. And you can't get mad at them every once in a while and then love them when they're making it rain. So you just got to understand that's who they are, and it's okay.
You need a hard charger.
You do need some hard chargers. And you may never have one of those, and that's okay too. But I'm just giving you some advice that you better clean up your language and make sure it's balanced, and make sure you've explained it 3 times. And I like to say, hey, will you explain back to me what you understand this thing to be in your own words? That's a good one. Would you mind explaining to me in your own words what you see this incentive plan being? Because then you get to hear what's running through their sales badger head, which might still be, you're going to pay me 10% on anything. No. For the 4th time, it's this.
Hey, let me tell you about a friend of the show called Content Fresh. Since they've taken over our social media for the Overlap podcast, we've seen incredible growth. When you combine the growth from all social platforms, we're looking at a massive increase of 2,235%. This partnership has truly transformed our reach and engagement. If you're passionate about growing your business, partnering with Content Fresh could be a game changer for you. Go to overlaplife.com and click on sponsors today.
I want to take a moment to talk about someone who's been instrumental in my personal and business success. That's Johnny Barranco and his team at Barranco and Associates. For over 7 years, Johnny has been my go-to accountant and financial consultant. I can tell you that he's more than just a tax preparer. Johnny takes a holistic approach to all my financial dealings, aligning them with my long-term plans and personal lifestyle. I've recommended Johnny to several friends throughout different business groups around the country, and the feedback has been nothing short of exceptional. His expertise and service are top-notch. So if you're looking for someone who not only prepares your taxes, but also helps you strategize for the future, Johnny and his team at Barranco & Associates are the ones to call. Trust me, you won't regret it. So contact Johnny Barranco today and take the first steps towards financial peace. You're not going to regret this.
Incentive plans also work to highlight a certain area of product that you want to grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So putting an incentive plan on just a specific product that you sell is fine too.
Yeah. I love an area that you're trying to grow, putting everyone on it and just paying a fee to everyone for that on top of whatever thing you've got going on.
Right.
When it's, and that there, so even more than sales, let's say you've got a department manager and tires are a big issue. In your analysis from last year, you spent $100,000 on tires. That would be a lot of money. But if we can get that down to $50,000 by implementing some, we're going to put in this liquid tube inside of every tire. It's going to be, $800. You're going to put it in twice a year. And then you're going to have someone go through with a metal detector through the yard once a week to get up any screws or nails. And now you're only spending $40,000. You spent, $1,600 on the liquid tube. And then one guy a week for an hour is going to go through and do that. There's another $1,600, and you spent $1,600 on a metal detector, and you dropped your tire expense from $100,000 to $40,000. That's a lot of money that you just saved for whatever that is. Is that $4,800? That's a lot. I'd save $60,000 by spending $48,000 all day long, and then you go ahead and pay that other, that department manager that put it all together and made sure it got done. You'd probably go ahead and pay that person $5,000 or $4,000 or whatever it is. Now they're going to want, if you save $60,000, they're going to want $30,000, and I think that's ridiculous too. That's just me.
Cost savings is a great place to put an incentive plan.
You know why cost savings is a great place? You want me to do the math for you on that?
It's almost better than sales.
It is better than sales. It's twice as good. In our world, it's twice as good. I'll explain it. So, sales, you sell $1,000. What do you have? And if you're you gotta go to the job. You gotta sell the job. You gotta do the job and all that stuff. And we're operating at a 50% gross profit for easy math.
Yeah, that's $500.
So you got $500. So So if you sold a $1,000 job, did you have $1,000?
Nope.
Now, if you save $1,000, what do you have?
$1,000.
$1,000.
Yep.
$1,000. It's doubling your money. Every dollar you save is like $2 of sales. Now, every dollar you save in a department that is operating at 70% gross profit is way more than $1. It's like $3. It's crazy. Now, you cannot save yourself into profitability, but you can save yourself into another tax bracket.
Definitely.
You can do that. Holy shit. That is tweetable, Tim. You can't save yourself into profitability, but if you're profitable and you start saving some money, you can save yourself into another tax bracket. That's how you make some real money, is looking at your P&L and saving $200,000 in expenses, variable overhead or fixed overhead or a combination of both. Because then you don't have to sell $450,000 worth of work. you just do the same amount of work with the same amount of hours with the same people. You're just saving the expenses. There we go. So there's our rant on incentive programs. And as sophomoric as that is, Keith did bring in the Harvard Business Review. I mean, this is just our experience with it. This is like rubber meets the road, real nuts and bolts experience with incentive programs. And so, I feel like it's pretty good advice. And I give this kind of advice all the time. Keith mentioned the guys in my peer group, and we've had tons of discussions about this. Why do you want to do it? You're trying to get everyone rowing in the same direction. And me as the leader, I've got to identify what are the areas that are going to make the biggest differences, and how do I keep people focused on that? Then also, how do I line them up with what's in it for them, the company, and all of our futures? When do I do that? I do it when I've got some pretty good systems in place. I know what success looks like, and I probably have some help in implementing and managing that process so I don't mess it up. Because if you start something, you damn well better be able to be consistent with it, or you're going to lose all of that leadership capital you built up over the last couple of years. And then how do you set it up? It just needs to be win-win. So the company wins first, and then the team member wins, and it's got to be balanced where it can't be manipulated. And if you follow those 3 steps, I think you're going to be in good shape. Keith, any final thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
The Harvard Business Review also said.
He's been hanging out with scientists and all these people.
The number one downfall of any incentive plan is the follow-through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So be sure that you can follow through with
important.
what you come up with.
It's so important to you entrepreneurs. I'm talking to myself too.
Well, yeah, that's the number. I think that's a big problem just in new business anyway.
Yeah.
Is follow through.
Well, we start something because we had an idea.
Yeah.
And we got struck with the bug, and let's just go do it.
Yep.
Same thing with incentive program. It sounds like the right idea. I see all the upsides, all the benefits. I did not think about how I'm going to execute it and stay and follow through with it. That's why I'm always like, you got to have someone.
Yeah.
We're implementing some new incentive plans, and my first question is, cool, who's going to do that? Because everyone will come with you come to you with an idea. Man, I think we ought to do this. Yeah, that's great. Who's going to do it? Who's going to manage it? Oh, well, I assumed you would. Well, that's a terrible mistake. Do you know me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not doing that. Let's think a little bit deeper. Who's going to do that? Who's really super organized on our team? Okay. Looks like it's going to be Jamie. Excellent. Jamie, you got one more thing to do.
Yeah. I asked that this week. I had somebody come on my team and say, you should do
I love it.
I love you should.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
Although you're pretty big on you should do this.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah.
Well, I've learned to turn it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
good times.
Let us know if you successfully. I hope we've not scared you out of
they're great.
Implementing an incentive
They're great.
plan.
They're definitely good.
Yeah. So let us know if you start one.
Yeah.
And let us know how it turns out. Hey, you know who can help you with incentive plans?
Who's that?
Our sponsors, C2 Wealth.
Oh, okay.
If you're at the stage where you need to add some real incentives to your organization, they do that. Like health benefits. Yeah, like some,
That is definitely an incentive plan.
401k.
That's definitely an incentive plan.
Your match, you got to determine the match.
Yeah.
Whatever. They can help. And you know who can tell you if it's a good idea for you to do it? Well, C2 Wealth can implement it, but then Johnny Baranko can tell you if it's a good idea. And you're ready for it.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yep.
He can definitely help. Thanks, everyone. I'm out.
Yep. Out. Peace.